Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Two Chicks Coturnix. I'm Rebecca Litch from Thieving Otter Farm.
And I'm Leah with Southern Biophiliac Urban Farm.
And we're here to bring you the scoop.
Not the poop.
On Coturnix quail. So, Leah, I got to tell you this story. It's actually two stories, but they happened at about the same time. And I like died laughing. I nearly peed my pants. Okay. So
I'm not going to be peeing in my chair, right?
Hopefully not, but
Okay.
it's a warning for all the listeners. You might pee your pants. So with breeding quail, if you're a good breeder, you have a lot of culls. Okay. You have birds that just don't make it, or you have extra males, or for whatever reason, you have birds that are, yeah. And so I freeze my culls and I donate them to a wildlife rehabilitation center that works with like hawks and owls, birds of prey. So about once a month, we meet up because she lives about an hour and a half south of Nashville and I'm about an hour and a half north of Nashville. And so we meet up in Nashville at Sam's Club in the parking lot. And it's kind of a shady area of town to begin with. And now you have two vehicles pulling up in the corner of the parking lot.
I'm sure people are wondering what's going on.
Yeah, so they're already probably like, what's going on in the corner of the parking lot? You know, like nobody else is parked there. What's going on? And I drive a big white cargo van. Okay.
Oh, I can see it now.
Okay, so I'm setting the stage. Yeah. So I open the door of the cargo van to pull out an entire tote of frozen birds. And I open the door and the tote comes flying out the door and like falls on the ground and throws birds everywhere.
Oh no.
And Valerie and I, we just like were bent over dying laughing because just the picture of like all these dead frozen birds. And we were just waiting for someone to be really offended that we were throwing dead birds around in the parking lot. And so literally it was like a full minute where we could hardly catch our breath. We're just bent over and trying not to pee our pants. And we finally, tip the tote up, scoop the birds in, collect them from like under the van. Like literally, it was like dropping a bag of marbles. Okay.
Well, at least this time you didn't have to pay the neighbor boy 50 cents a bird to catch them.
Exactly. Yeah. They didn't run very far. Okay. So we get them all loaded up. And I get back in my van and my phone rings. And so I answer it. And it's one of my customers who is extremely nice, who says, "Hey, I ordered 4 pansy live birds from you and I received them, but there were only 3 in the box. So I was wondering, do you ship them separate? Like, am I going to get my other bird?" And I was like, "No." Because immediately I did this flashback to yesterday when I was sitting on a stool sorting birds and I saw a pansy hen run by me on the floor. And at the time I went, "No. There should not be a pansy hen on the floor." And my first thought, because there was only one live bird shipment that went out and it was for 4 pansy hens. And my first thought was, one of those hens escaped from the box. You've got to be kidding me. And then I was like, no. My luck isn't that bad. No, my luck was that bad. Literally, there was about a 4-inch hole, about a hole like this big, that little bird popped out of while I was going to get the other birds. And stupid me, I didn't bother counting the birds in the box because I counted them as I carried them over to the box.
Oh no.
And then so she ends up with 3 birds instead of 4. I was just like, okay, well, you're being so nice. I'm going to send you your bird. And do you have room for another bird? I'll send you 2 birds. And she was so sweet. She volunteered to pay for half the shipping. And I was like, no, this is entirely my fault.
Of her. Yeah.
So nice of her. But yeah, it was just like, sometimes you just have to laugh when you make a big mistake, because that's a pretty big mistake. But Oh yeah, it was hilarious though. So so that's my day. How about you? What's going on in your world?
Um, it's getting hot in Florida again. We had a nice little cool weather spurt that was just pretty much way too short. Anyways,
Always.
it was always way too short.
So I
So
I was gonna ask. I'm sorry to interrupt, but okay, I'm in Tennessee. I'm in a landlocked state, and sharks are not a big thing here, of obviously. So what about Florida? Do you have trouble with sharks?
there are sharks in the water,
Hmm.
and we also have what we call land sharks,
Oh, okay. Land sharks.
and that is a name for any quail that escapes. That was given to them by my daughter.
So I have a land shark in my quail room.
Yeah, so we get them too. That's what they're called. So if we
Okay.
have any that are running the barn that get out, they're called land sharks.
Ah, okay. Okay. I love it. Okay. Well, now I have a land shark in my quail room.
Yes, I have a couple in
Oh
mind.
my goodness. Okay, so I interrupted you to ask about sharks. So what else is going on in your world?
Well, we're still dealing a little bit with like post Hurricane Milton drama. Um, so the storm definitely stressed out the birds. Um, the lights being off for a few days, I'm sure, didn't help either. They are
Mm.
getting back to laying though, but they started to molt a good
Oh
chunk of them. Not all of
no.
them, but a good chunk of them. So, but they're already like getting back. They're starting to lay again, starting to get more regular. Just it's taking some time.
Well, this would be a good time to dig into that a little deeper. And last time we talked about lighting and how that played a role in lots of things with quail. And it sounds like now your lighting situation and the stress of the hurricane, kind of had another effect on them with them going into the molt. So,
Oh,
I think
definitely.
this might be a good time to talk about the molt. Yeah. And this is the time that, time of the year when people who aren't being, subjected to hurricanes, um, are are seeing their birds go into the molt as well. Um, so yeah, let's dig into that a little bit. Um, okay, so there are three kinds of molts. There's the junior molt that happens as a bird is growing. So they, start out with a cute little chick down and then they get some feathers. Well, those feathers aren't really big enough for an adult body, so they have to lose those feathers and get kind of their big bird feathers. So they'll kind of shed out the baby feathers and get adult feathers. So it's not uncommon to see, feathers in your brooder. Don't panic. Everything's fine. And from there, they can have a stress molt, which is what Leah just happened to have with her birds. So, Leah, do you want to talk about stress molts?
Yeah. So stress molts can happen when the birds perceive any type of stress, and that can be anything from like a big event that we just went through with the hurricane. Um, It can also be triggered by if you have a lot of predators around in the area. It can be triggered by moving birds from one location to another. So anything that is perceived by them as stress can put them into a molt. It's not as heavy of a molt as when they do go through in a full adult molt, which Rebecca will talk more about in a second. But it will slow down laying. They will drop feathers, and they will be grumpy.
Got it. So for the adult molt, that is more triggered by daylight. As we talked about in our last episode, light plays a big role in quail lives. And so because of that, it usually happens, Leah, would you say around November, October,
Yeah, most
November
commonly it
for
does
adult
depend.
birds?
Yeah, it depends where you are in the hemisphere, but generally November is a pretty big time for
Got
it.
it. And Yeah, I guess that's a also something to think of. If we have any Australian listeners, they're going into spring right now. But
Right. So they've
yeah,
got full
so
production going.
right, yeah, they're experiencing nice warm days here or there. But as far as we're concerned, molt's usually going to happen in the fall, and that's triggered by the daylight. We all know that our days are getting shorter, and those birds definitely feel it. And that's the time they're going to start dropping those feathers. And the molt, what it is, it's a bird's way of replacing those used up feathers. So those feathers get wore out and scraggly. And the bird has a chance to shed those ugly feathers and get new ones. And as Leah mentioned, they get kind of angry about it because they're actually running a fever when that happens. They're, about like 1 to 2 degrees higher than normal. So that makes them not feel so great. And not only that, but I'm sure their skin feels kind of weird because they're growing these new pin feathers and stuff. So it's good to keep in mind that they might be a little, you might have angry birds for a little while. And during that time to not handle them. Yeah. Give them some space. Don't hold them. And because they are running a fever, you want to make sure that they have good ventilation. So a lot of people are like, "Oh my God, my birds are naked. Like, are they going to be cold?" No, not unless you're living in Canada or something. So make sure they have good ventilation. Yeah, they'll be totally fine. And what about like Leah, what's that one thing that you hear all the time in the groups about feeding birds this time of year?
Everybody wants to increase protein, and that's absolutely not what you want to do right now. Increasing protein
Absolutely
is going to increase the heat that they give off and their body temperature, so it's going to make them even more angry.
Absolutely. And the other thing that people do is they start trying to increase the protein by feeding them the weird things like cat food. Just feed them their normal diet. You don't have to feed them cat food or anything like that. Just give them their normal diet. If you do want to help them kind of speed up the process a little bit, you can decrease their light even more. So like, don't make it nighttime all the time. But if you reduce their light to say like 10 hours, it'll help speed up that process a little bit. Which is kind of like, what happened with you, Leah, with you not having good light for like 3 days. They're like, okay, time to molt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were done.
Okay, so Leah, when your birds went into a stress molt, how did it differ from a regular adult molt as far as feather loss and stuff like that? How long did it take? How many feathers? Were they totally naked or?
Well, both stress molt and adult molt, which generally is the one that happens in fall, do vary quite a bit. So, stress molts can vary on time. Mine was just under 2 weeks. And a full molt is generally anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks. So, but stress molts, if the bird's constantly under stress, it can last longer. Okay. And with either type of molt, they can either have like a little bit of feather loss, just sparse feathers here and there, or they can have ample loss, which is when they tend to look like little bird rats.
Oh, so naked rat land sharks.
Yeah. Yep. Land sharks that are bald.
Bald land sharks.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Okay. AI,
so make a photo for us on that.
Definitely. Okay. Somebody, please, one of our listeners needs to make some naked rat land shark quail AI photos and post them in the group. Please do that. I need to see it. Yes. Okay. So I guess the only thing to mention is not everybody will have birds that molt. So, kind of in my situation, I actually cull my birds before they go into a molt. And next week we're going to talk about culling for the winter, and picking our breeders for spring. So we'll kind of talk about that more. But molt, other than the junior molt, isn't something that I really see because my birds are on lights with timers and in a climate controlled room. They don't know what time of the year it is, so I kind of don't really have that problem. But next week we're going to talk a lot about what breeders do to help prepare for spring breeding. Anything else you'd like to add, Leah?
Nope, but I am excited for spring.
Oh, I'm excited already. So thank you everybody for joining us. And make sure that you use that coupon code from last time, Spooky25. You have until October 31st is the last day to use that on either of our websites to get 25% off a purchase. So make sure you take advantage of that. And be sure to like and subscribe. We really appreciate that.
All right, guys, that's it for tonight. And until next week, we'll see you then. Take care.
Have a great night.